Let me tell you how much DEI is not really a thing in the real world. Online world, people talking online, Twitter, whatever. Yeah, sure. But in the real world, let me tell you how much it is. I literally purchased my house, my multifamily house, specifically, essentially, because DEI ain't a goddamn thing. What do I mean by that? One of the inspirations for me purchasing my house is because of me being out of work for so long, multiple times in my past, where my money ran out and I'm sitting there, struggling to pay the rent, struggling to pay my bills, struggling to pay my food as a grown ass man. I made a decision that I never, ever, ever want to be in that situation again. Working six-figure jobs. Why did I then end up going from a six-figure job to working at a gym? I was working at a gym after reaching to the level of six figures, making, whatever minimal pay. I had like a 15-minute lunch break. I remember my boss used to stand outside making sure we smile and greet everybody coming in. Again, this is mid in my career where I already made it. I already rose up that ladder to a significant degree. And then again, I'm not the excuse guy. When I'm looking for work, I pay the money to get the resume done by a professional. I'm studying stuff. I'm taking online courses. I'm perfecting my interview performance. I'm doing all this stuff right above and beyond. Right? Other people not even thinking to do that stuff, and I'm doing that stuff, and still can't get a job to the point where I'm running out of money to where I end up working at a gym. Another time, I was selling goddamn mops. Six-figure professional with my background and all the stuff going for me, all the knowledge and skills and all that kind of stuff, and couldn't find a job for so long. I ended up selling goddamn mops. Where is my fucking DEI fucking bullshit? And that job was so stressful because it was very commission based. I would go to some stores. I was selling in supermarkets. I'm literally like making announcements talking about we giving out free gifts, and people with the ice cream melting would sit down and listen to me talk for 15 minutes about goddamn mops. But I was selling them, but some stores I wasn't, right? And I really relied on the commission. So when I bombed at a store, that was bad because I had to decide what bill I'm gonna pay and which bill I'm not gonna pay. Where was my goddamn DEI then? Really? Come on, guys. All right, so I got a little sidetracked, but let me just explain the reality of DEI that people are missing. There's this idea that what's happening is previously someone like me goes in and applies for a job and they hire some white guy because he's more qualified than me. But then with DEI, they're like, okay, this guy is not as qualified, but we need another black guy, so let's hire him. So that's where you get the idea of them lowering the standards, right? But here's the reality. Here's the way, and again, there's different ways to apply DEI, but this is from what I've seen as an inside guy, right? First of all, I've never been directly contacted by these programs or any direct involvement with DEI, and like I said, I've never felt like I had any benefit. In terms of like it's easier for me to find jobs. I've always, every time I'm out of work, it's always really, really stressful. It can take a very long time. Again, I know part of the reason is just because of the level that I'm at. But still, even with that considered, it seems like it takes goddamn too long. So many times my bank accounts run out. I mean, you're making good six-figure salary and your money is running out because you're out of work for so long and unemployment is a joke. Something's wrong with that. But anyway, here's the reality. So let's just say we decide that there is not enough people who work. So Broadway is the main street wherever we live, whatever city we live in, right? And we determined that we don't have enough employees that live on Broadway. We want to diversify where the people live who work at the company, right? We want more Broadway Street residents to work at the company, right? So the idea is not, when we do interviews, we're interviewing one guy and this guy's really good, really skilled. Where does he live? Oh, not on Broadway. Okay, we'll consider it. And the next guy comes in. Oh, this guy seems decent. Oh, I don't know if he's not the best necessarily, but where does he live? Broadway. Oh, Broadway. Let's hire him. No. What happens is you go down to goddamn Broadway and you set up a stand and you put a big sign and say we're hiring, right? So people who live on Broadway, they see the sign and they start applying. So now the ratio of people applying for the job is now been adjusted to where you have more Broadway residents applying than before. So necessarily, if you do that, you're going to start having an increase in people who live on Broadway working at the company. I mean, an extreme scenario would be let's just only do hiring on Broadway in terms of pause all of your recruiting efforts, and the only way you're going to do hiring is through setting up tables on Broadway, right? If you now exclusively, it's an extreme example, just to get my point. If you now exclusively go there to hire people, then an overwhelming amount of your new hires are probably going to be from Broadway. Now, keep in mind, and this is the point I'm getting to you, it's not because you're looking at people who live in other areas and you're giving them less priority. It's because of the fact that you've adjusted the ratio in terms of where you're looking for people, right? If someone lives in another street who's very qualified, tries to apply for a job and they're really good, you're going to hire them, right? But just the fact that you're on Broadway you are solving an issue of getting more people from that area to apply for the job. So you can have the same standard as before. And that's the other thing too. Because of the fact that you're targeting this area, you don't have to lower your standard, right? If you didn't target the area, that's where it gets a little tricky, because if a tiny percentage of people who apply are from this group that you want more hires from, the odds that from that tiny group you're going to find a good person is not very good, because again, in the big pool, in the big market where you're looking at everybody, it's hard to find good people. So let alone if you're looking in a tiny group. But if I'm going and targeting an area where it's 95% of people from a certain demographic, right? That means that, like, 95% of the people that apply when I go to that area are going to be from that demographic. So I'm going to be able to pick from the cream of the crop, right? I don't have to lower my standards now, because now instead of me picking from a tiny group of people that are even applying, now I'm targeting this area. So now I can get a bigger pool. So I know that corporations are doing stuff like that. They will target areas where there are a lot of minorities. There's different ways they can do it, but it's just like advertising, right? You can target people that have interest in different things. So they're targeting people in that way. So a highly qualified person who happens to be white, still has a chance to get a job. And I don't see that they are at a big risk of not getting a job because of their skin color, right? And as evidenced by the fact that companies are still dominated by people that look like them, right? All the big companies I'm working for, I've always been the minority, right? So for all the diversity, I'm not seeing it when I'm trying to find work. That's not helping me when I'm out of work. And then when I do get jobs, I'm like the one guy that looks like me, right? Not literally, but let's say, for example, so the last company I worked for, 40,000 employees. The office I was in, we're not all in the same office, but the office I was in, a lot of people. I mean, a massive office. I would say there were, on my floor, at most, there were 3 guys that had brown skin. That was it. Well, there was another group that was there. It was a decent representation. There was a lot of Indians. I would say that. But yeah, people that look like me, 3. On a floor of, I don't know how many people on that floor. Definitely hundreds for sure. I want to say even more than that, because I feel like hundreds would just be on one side, because you got 4 sides, right? That's how the building is. Like, you have one side, north, west, east, but it's a lot of people, right? So I'm not seeing a bunch of people that look like me working at these corporations. It's not easy for me to find new jobs. I'm ending up out of work for a very long time. So where the fuck is the DEI, right? You can have a perception of DEI coming from people who don't know nothing about DEI, who not even not in corporate America, whatever, and then you can have people who are sitting there looking at their failures in terms of trying to blame something, right? When I had trouble finding jobs, rather than me say, oh, it's because I'm black or whatever, my thing was, what can I do to step up my game so that I can get back in the game, right? And that's what I did. It didn't work out smoothly all the time. Sometimes it was very, very hard. There's a couple times I thought I was going to be, like I said, I think I was heading towards being homeless just before I pulled it off, right? So my thing is, pull myself up by my bootstraps, get it done, no excuses. Being dead is not an excuse. And I got the job, get the promotion, get the raises, but that's hard work. I didn't have no goddamn DEI bullshit, right? And for all those lamos out there who are sitting there looking for somebody to blame, trying to blame it on DEI programs, I'm gonna tell you right goddamn now. The problem is not DEI, the problem is you. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. No excuses. Get it done.